So good morning and welcome to all of you. My name is Santino. I'm education coordinator for the Preserve, and I am going to be here as moderator. So once we get rolling, I'm going to kill my camera and mic, but know that I'm here in the background watching everything. I'm the all-seeing eye. So if you would like to chat amongst yourselves during the meeting, please feel free to use the chat feature for that. But you also have access to the Q&A tab if there are specific questions. And I believe there's a time for that at the end of the meeting here. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to turn the meeting over to Judy, who will be kicking us off.
Thank you, Santino. Thank you very much for doing this. Good morning and welcome. I'm Judy Eby. I'm chair of the board of Bowman's Hill Wildflower Preserve. I am so glad that you could join us today for our third annual meeting via Zoom. Maybe next year we'll be in person, or maybe not. Maybe this is better. I don't know. We get better attendance. I think Santino said 38 people signed up. So today I'm looking forward to sharing our plans for 2023 and getting any comments or feedback from you that you might have. But before we get to that, I wanted to quickly touch base on the agenda for the meeting. We have a lot to cover in 60 minutes. Our governance chair, Deborah Agnew, will announce the 2023 slate of officers. I will introduce you briefly to our 5 new board members and give them an opportunity to share with you a little bit about themselves. I will also share highlights of 2 board members that will be leaving the board at the end of 2022. I'm also pleased to announce that we have a fabulous guest speaker for our meeting today. It's gardener, author, speaker, and most importantly, a BHWP board member, Jenny Rose Carey. And then there's a few other pieces of board business. After that, it will be an update by our executive director, Pete Couchman. He will review 2022. He will provide a look forward at our 2023 annual plan, and he will provide an overview of the 2023 budget. Then some board business, as the board needs to vote to adopt the annual plan and budget, and then we can take any questions before we adjourn. So thank you again, and I'm looking forward to your comments. Pete, is there anything else you'd like to add before we get started?
Nope, other than thank you all for joining. I hope some of you are still in your bunny slippers and enjoying a nice hot cup of coffee, or maybe it's a nice coffee with the weather today. But we're looking forward to sharing the information with you today. So thanks for joining.
Great, thank you, Pete. So with that, I'm going to turn you over to Deborah Agnew, who will announce the slate of officers for 2023.
Yes, thank you. We just voted on the slate of officers a few minutes ago. Very familiar slate to you all. Judy Eby, President, Chris Holzner, Vice President, Iveta Gigova, Treasurer, and Andy Strauss, Secretary. So thanks to all the officers for signing up again, agreeing to be signed up again. And succession was top of the list at our recent board retreat, so that'll be the main focus of 2023. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to introduce you to 5 new board members, and I'm going to let each of them, if they don't mind, they can unmute their microphone. 5 new board members joined us this year. So you have an opportunity to meet them all virtually. They're all going to take a quick minute to tell you something about themselves. So we're going to start with Jenny Rose Carey.
Hello, I am so delighted to join the Bowman's Hill Wildflower Board. I have been a long time supporter. I probably started volunteering, not on a level of many of you, but oh goodness, 25 years or more ago. And we used to live in Yardley. And now I live in Ambler. I'm an avid gardener, horticulturist, garden writer, and I love my native plants and I love my flowers, and I still have gaillardias and Rudbeckias in the garden. So, you know, that's my passion. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jenny. With that, I'll turn it over to Heidi Needleman.
Hello, everybody. This is Heidi Needleman. I joined the Bowman Hill Wildflower Preserve as a volunteer about 2.5 years ago when I retired. I am a scientist by training, but I knew when I retired that I wanted to focus a lot of my energy and attention on environmental and conservation causes. So for me, the Bowman Hill Wildflower Preserve was a perfect fit because as a botanical museum, it has a focus not only on conservation, but also around education of the importance of native plants to the ecosystem. So it was a great fit for me. You can see me around the preserve as a gate attendant. I serve on the collections committee. And this year for 2022, I joined the interpretive naturalist training class. And I'm really honored to be joining the board for 2023.
Thank you very much, Heidi. With that, let's meet Juanita Hummel.
Hi, I'm Juanita Hummel. I'm a volunteer naturalist here at the preserve, and I also serve on the Education and Visitors Experience Committees. I'm also a Pennsylvania Master Naturalist, and that's what actually brought me to the preserve, where I took the preserve naturalist training, and it was absolutely wonderful. I do a whole lot of other things too. Somebody once asked me whether I have more hours in my day than the average person, but I really don't. I'm just very busy. But I am a past president and current trustee of Washington Crossing Audubon Society as well. My first real introduction to nature was through birds. And Washington Crossing is a New Jersey local chapter of National Audubon. And I'm delighted to be on the board of the Bowman's Hill Wildflower Preserve. I like Washington Crossing too, but I think Bowman's Hill in some ways is even more special. And I really look forward to helping drive forward the very ambitious and very exciting goals that they've outlined for the action plan for the next 5 years. So very pleased to be here.
Thank you very much, Juanita. With that, let's turn it over to Stephen Hall.
Good morning. I'm a longtime Mercer County resident. I went to school in the Washington, D.C. area. I served on a few boards down there for a while and recently moved back to this area where I now serve on this board, as well as the board for the Sauerland Conservancy. And I come from a finance and operations background, so that's what I hope to bring to the board as a member. And I'm just really excited to work at the preserve because I think it's a very unique space to really connect with nature and just have that space that is unencumbered by some invasive species and the deer pretty much ruining everything in our area. So I'm very excited to be able to help in any way I can.
Thank you, Stephen. And last but not least, Seth Sadisky.
Good morning, everybody. I have been involved with the preserve since 2018 when I joined the naturalist program in a real way. Stopped in and out throughout the years before that, but really got involved as a volunteer and through the naturalist program. And then that led to me briefly being on staff, working as a consultant, developing the online plant store when we couldn't shop in person. And now I'm excited to join the board. My background is in media and communications. I have always been interested in science and botany and entomology, and decided that when I joined the naturalist program was when my young kids started going back to school and it was time for me to do something too. So I continue to live and work across the river in Mercer County. I work over at the Watershed Institute, live in Hopewell Township, and excited to keep being involved with the preserve.
Thank you very much, Seth. Appreciate that. The next item on our agenda today is recognition of some outgoing board members. So I'd like to start with Allison Hamilton. Allison Hamilton is a planner. She has been an extraordinary board member serving the preserve for 12 years. She joined the board in 2014, ending her first term as chair of the board. During her tenure, the preserve has benefited greatly from her dedication and service. Here are just a few ways that Allison has shared her love of the preserve. She is a naturalist. She chaired the education committee. She was on the collections committee. She is currently the chair of the visitor experience committee. She has been on 2 of the last strategic planning committees. She was on the search committee for our current executive director. She joined the governance committee. She was on the branding committee. She is on the cabin design committee, and I could keep going on and on. The preserve has benefited from all that Allison has brought to the table. Her planning and conservation background have moved the needle on what the preserve has been able to accomplish. She is part of seeing and sharing the big picture. I cannot thank Allison enough for all that she has contributed to the success of the preserve. Please join me in thanking Allison for her tenure.
Thank you, Judy. I'm exhausted from everything you just said. I think you might have missed a few things too, but
that's why I said, and I could go on and on.
It's been a pleasure. Education got me there, and the mission hooked me, and it's, I never look back. It's been great, and I'm not going away.
That's even better news. Another board member who will be leaving at the end of this year. He's not able to join us today. He has a personal commitment. He's at a wedding. Mark Gallagher is leaving the board at the end of this year. Allison's the planner. Mark Gallagher is the connector. Since he joined the board in 2013, he has been reaching out in our community to connect the preserve with other like-minded organizations. From trips to Mount Cuba to introductions of the leadership of Duke Farms, Mark is always looking to make the preserve relevant. He works behind the scenes in many ways. He has connected us with great speakers for our annual LES program. He was the vice chair for 2 years, and he also chaired the nursery committee. Based on his teaching connections with Temple University, he also introduced Christy Lane Anderson to the preserve. She originally came here as an intern, and with Mark's guidance, she did her capstone project on the tower. She is currently serving as a member of the board. Great connection there too. Through his Temple connection, he also brought another board member to the preserve, Baldev Lamba, as a Temple professor of landscape architecture. Mark has also shared his expertise in such projects as providing in several areas, such as water management projects at the preserve, such as providing insight on how to sustain the flow of water into Founder's Pond, among others. I want to thank Mark for all of his past and hopefully future connections for the preserve. When I did speak with him the other day, Mark said he isn't going anywhere. He just has to step back because of his own personal time commitments. So again, I'd like to thank Mark for his service and continued connection with the preserve. The next item on our agenda is our guest speaker. So I'd like to take a minute to just introduce Jenny Rose Carey. Jenny is, by her own admission, Jenny is a gardener, an author, a speaker, and like I said, a very proud board member. She will share with us today her top 5 easy flowering plants for your summer into fall native plant garden. The plants that she is talking about today will be available for sale at the gift shop. Supply is limited, so stop by soon if you're interested in purchasing them. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jenny.
Well, thank you, Judy. I'm very honored to be able to just share with you some of my favorites. Obviously, when you're trying to pick your top 5, it's difficult. So I did limit it to ones that really bloom in summer into fall. So with no further ado, Pete, you're in charge. So if I maybe wave, you do see me, so we can change. Thank you. So this is in my garden, and I do have 4.5 acres here down in Ambler. It's called Northview. And this was an area that I was developing to collect water. And it's interesting because I didn't realize when I was picking them that actually most of them could do with quite wet soil. And people say, well, I don't have any wet areas, but certainly after yesterday's rain, if you walk around your garden and look at places that puddle, that would be a perfect place for many of the 5 that I'm talking about today. And all I did with this area was basically dig the soil out of the middle of the horseshoe and then put the soil around the back. And the back is the way that the water drains. So, okay, Pete. Oh, yes. So we're saying that it's like on the edge of when you can plant, but especially with little plants that have a vigorous root system, you can still plant them because the soil is still warm. And that's really, you know, the plants don't really, these herbaceous plants don't really care what the ambient air temperature is. They're looking for soil warmth. So thank you, Pete. So still warm, the roots are going to get their, you know, find their warm place. So that will still be fine. And we'll talk about that at the end of the 5. Okay, on with the real things. Okay, the first one that Donna and I picked. Donna, thank you so much for your suggestions and for all of the work in the nursery. And the nursery, I'm sure you'll hear, had a banner year, and we're just so delighted because it gets all these natives out into new homes and spreads the word. So this is a turtle head, and you can see that the flower sort of has this 2-lipped part, and it does sort of resemble a turtle in shape. But the key things, why would you want to grow this? If you're into butterflies, this is a must-have because it's the host plant for the Baltimore checker spot. But it's also very good for bumblebees. And we're all talking about all the reasons that we need to grow more of these natives. And of course, we talk about pollinators, but really, I think that Juanita was talking about the birds. This is just part of our ecosystem. And the more we look at these individuals, you see that each individual one of these plants is part of that whole ecosystem. So needs some moist soil for white turtle head. And Pete, on the next slide, we'll see one of its sisters, which is one that I think is more commonly grown, the Chelone lyonii, which is the pink turtle head. Both of them love some moisture. And as I say, if you haven't got a wet spot that is obvious, a low-lying part, even under a downspout. So if you dig out a bit, you know, and you're trying to get the water away from your house, make a nice little downspout garden, just pull it away like 10-12 feet away from your house so that the foundations don't suffer. Or even under a bird bath. I mean, I've got wet spots under a bird bath. I fill that bird bath 2, 3, 4 times a week, slosh it in, and then the Chelone does wonderfully underneath it. Okay, next. Number 2 is another wet spot lover. So this one blooms in the summer. It's got this absolutely, you know, they call it fire engine red. You know, it's really a bright beacon in the garden. And this is a magnet for your hummingbirds, of course, because birds can see red rather than bees do not see red. They see in UV. So this one has these tubular flowers on a spike. So it's a nice contrast to some of the more moundy plants that you might have. It does tend to be short-lived, but it will seed itself in. So in most of our gardens, there's enough hummingbirds to pollinate it. And so then it will seed in, and you can help that by at this time of year, getting those seed capsules and sprinkling them around. And it acts either as probably as a short-lived perennial, but when you look around the parent plant, you'll see rosettes of the new next year's plants growing, because the one that flowered sort of seems to die away. So don't cover that with mulch. Those need to photosynthesize over the winter. They seem to hate being mulched all the way over the top. Okay, next. This, when you see it growing in nature, often is by the side of streams, stream banks, bogs, boggy areas, those sort of things. And one of the joys of walking around the preserve is when you find these plants, you will see where they are growing in the preserve. So your trick is to take that knowledge home and try and recreate a similar place in your own garden. Next. Its sister is the Lobelia syphilitica, the great blue lobelia, and you can see a nice bumblebee on this one. Most of these plants I'm talking about today are really, I think they're all good for pollinators, but this one, you know, invariably when I'm taking these photos, you'll see that it has some sort of pollinator on it. This will seed itself around, doesn't need quite as much moisture, will grow in an average soil, and, you know, all of these things, once they get established, can be quite prolific, I'm just saying, because they're wildflowers and they love where they are. Okay, next. I've picked a Penstemon as number 3. These also have a tubular flower. They are sometimes called foxglove beardtongue, and they sort of have inside it, I don't know if you can see, but there's sort of like a a funny part in the lip, which has the, I think that has the stamens on it. They are actually, another name for it is Mississippi Penstemon. They thought originally it just came from Mississippi. I just got back from Mississippi the day before yesterday, so it was a very good thing. They will take some clay, and actually all the ones I've talked about, I know deer, I get asked about deer all the time. So the Chelone is definitely deer resistant. The Lobelia, the deer may browse the basal foliage or the very young plants, so protect that a bit. But this Penstemon is definitely deer resistant because I can grow it in my garden and I have deer that tromp through. So this one, if you've grown other Penstemons, some of them, the more delicate hybrids can be a bit tricky, but this one is rock solid. You may see it as the cultivar Husker's red, but you know, the straight species is wonderful as well. Next. Another one, which is this wonderful spike, is the Physostegia virginiana. And this is called the obedient plant. I call it the disobedient plant. And the first place I had it, I dug it all out because beware, it's in the mint family and it is super aggressive if it is in a very wet place. But if you have an area that is weedy and you want to just let it go, this is perfect for that because it is quite like all in the mint family, or most in the mint family, they are very good growers, good doer. But it has these wonderful, I think I've got, do I have a close up? Let's see, next one. Yes. So what I have found over the years, look in there, do you see that it looks like a little ant or something in there? But the more you take close-up photos, and because we have our phones with us, it's so nice and you can see where the stamens are and everything. But it's called the obedient plant because when you arrange it, you can twist the little flowers around and they stay there for a little bit. But it's just a wonderful late season. All of these really are great for the late season. So moist spot, let's see what else. Deer resistant, mint family, moist soil, can run. Bees and butterflies, very good for that. It's what we call a robust plant. There we go. Next. These are all easy to grow. That's why we pick them, because they've got a chance of succeeding now, or you can plant them in the spring. Last but not least, I don't know if you can see on my little screen. Oops, where are we? Here. I have these still going in the garden. We're all familiar with the vast array of Rudbeckias, but I have to say, if you want to start with an easy one, this is probably one of the easiest, and it's great for flower arranging as well. Actually, most of the ones I picked are coincidentally. So this acts as a short-lived perennial or sometimes a biennial. Outside right now, I've got birds feasting on the seeds, and they're just entranced by it. They, you know, the little brown, it's a brown-eyed Susan, so the little brown, so you've got the ray and the disc florets in the middle, and they turn into very sort of prickly little seeds that the birds love. So it spreads around easily, so you've got to let them set seed so that you have what appears to be a self-perpetuating population in your garden. Okay, this is with Agastache and this one's with Chelone. So they coincidentally all seem to like growing together. And I'm going to show you a few pictures of my own garden just so you get the idea how easy they are to grow and how they can intermingle. So Pete, can we go through the next? Oh no, we do 4 planting, sorry. So Donna and also our friends at Arc Wild provided some of these tips because we are in the middle of November, but we really haven't had cold weather much yet. I think this week is going to be when it changes. So if you are buying the plants now, get them into the ground as soon as you can. And I believe that there will be a limited supply at the Bowman's Hill shop. So from Arc Wild, we get this wonderful tip that you don't dig straight down, you dig more at a diagonal. And that means that you have the real undisturbed soil over the top of the root ball. But I will say, even whatever Donna has them potted up in, you have to sort of shake off and with your fingers tease out some of the potting medium and loosen the roots, because you want them to get down into your soil. And then I always, this is an oxymoron or whatever they call it, firm the plant in gently. So some people get their great big boot and put it on top of it. These little things need just gently put, it needs to be in contact with the soil. And again, Arc Wild suggests a bamboo skewer that you could, obviously that biodegrades, but it holds the roots in place. And then give it some really good leaf mold is my preferred thing, or compost over the soil, but not over the leaves. Next. And here, this is the Rudbeckia en masse. And I mean, if you can afford to do it, or if you can grow from seed or anything, it's always much better to have a swath of something, particularly for the pollinators. It can be intermingled. They don't care if it's intermingled, but for example, this Rudbeckia is growing with goldenrod, and then there's phlox in the back, and then I have vernonia in the back of that. Okay, next. And here's another view of that. And then there's the upright blue, great blue Lobelia. And then you can see the goldenrod. And there's also at the front left some Helenium, the Helen's flower. That's another native. Next. And another way, if you're looking for a fun project and you have lots of logs lying around, look up the word Hügelkultur. I am not German, so I apologize to all the German speakers in the room. But it means hill culture, and you can see the Penstemon growing merrily up at the top. So of the 5, that's the one that can take the driest conditions. So I would suggest the Penstemon digitalis, and it has great seed heads and it will seed itself around. So basically look it up, it's in the permaculture realm. You put the rotting log down, soil and leaf mold, and then it just rots down and provides moisture and nutrients. Next. And here's the rain garden as it got reimagined, and you can see the upright spikes, you can see asters and goldenrods and heleniums and the Chelone, the Lyonii, the pink one at the back, sort of middle. So what I did, my property is on a hill, so I took all of the quarters of the property and then worked out where the rain flowed, and then made this sort of funnel, and down beyond that big stone, the rain is sitting there right now. And I really think we need to be more proactive about keeping our own rainwater on our properties and not having so much flooding downhill. It's so easy to do. Next, especially with native plants. So as I said, most of the ones I've spoken about today are moisture loving, but if you only have dry areas, then you pick a different palette and you garden with your conditions. Next. And here's another view of it. This is the upright blue, the pink Chelone. Agastaki is another very, very easy one that no deer will eat. See the one that's sort of a bluey purple color. And then the red Lobelia at the back left and the Rudbeckia on the back right. But I just intermingle them. And then right now I'll go around and sprinkle the seed heads around. And it's a bit more cottage garden style. It's not just swaths of one thing, but also dig things up if they seed into the wrong place and put them where I want to. So next one. This is our last slide. And my whole message is plant more wildflowers and your pollinators will thank you. Your environment will thank you, and leave the seed heads on for the birds. Do not be in a rush to go out and, as they say, clean up the garden. Leave these standing over the winter, and then when you come out in the spring, you can start cutting them off, but I never cut them right to the ground. I cut them like 20 inches or so, because a lot of our pollinators actually spend the winter in those stems and in those leaves, and it provides habitat for all your things. So there's your little 5 top wildflowers for summer into fall. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate that. Some wonderful, wonderful pictures of all of those plants coexisting together so nicely. That was really, really perfect.
My pleasure.
All right, the next thing I wanted to just cover very briefly, the board did have a retreat. We spent 4 hours together in September in lieu of a standard meeting. It was facilitated by Jill McCauley. She's from RSNS, and that's the same organization that we used for our strategic plan. So she's gotten to know the preserve pretty well, and she had an opportunity to help us take a deep dive into different things that we could do differently or better. As a group, we quickly identified areas that are working well for us, and then moved right away into areas that we need to improve and spent the majority of our time together discussing what those items were. And as Deborah alluded to when she was talking about the fact that you're all but too familiar with the slate of officers, we do have some work that we need to do regarding succession planning for the board. Part of that is being an officer shouldn't be thought of as a scary thing. There's a lot of things we've done to improve those roles. We're currently working on job descriptions so that people can kind of have a better idea of exactly what those roles are. But we also have some succession issues with committee chairs, and to be honest, even with board members at large. So we're really working under Deborah's leadership as chair of the governance committee to take a look at what those things are that we can do to help people understand how they can connect with the preserve, how they can support the preserve, whether it's on whatever type of volunteer activity they want. But definitely we've got as a board some work to do to help us find our successors in many of the different roles that we have. The second item that rose to the top of the list as something that we should tackle pretty quickly is the roles and responsibilities of the board in general to ensure that we are making the greatest impact. So if you think about it, the roles and responsibilities with the pandemic for a lot of things have definitely changed. But those roles and those descriptions were made up probably several years even before the pandemic. So we want to go back and take a look at them and make sure that they actually are accurate for the kinds of things that we should be doing. We're really lucky to have some of the board members that are currently with us that are from other boards that have been able to give us guidance. And one of the things that I really appreciate is Lisa Hanover was on the Pete side of the Mercer, the Michener, right? Sorry, said the wrong thing. So she's got some good points to make for us for how we can better impact and help the executive director because of her experience. Now she's on the other side. So it's been really nice to have her as a person who contributes a lot of guidance from other organizations. I know Heidi, Juanita, Stephen, Julia, a lot of our board members have served on other boards. And we like to use that as a way to kind of help us see different things that we can do to improve. And the last one that there were many, but the last of the top three was reviewing the roles and responsibilities of our committees to ensure that we are making the most impact with them as well. So what kinds of things can the committees do different? Because there again, some things have changed. We sort of had a one size fits all for committees with the number of times to meet or the recommendation for people on the committee. And we really want to take a step back and look to see if that really makes sense or if we should change some of the things that we're doing with the committees. They obviously do a lot to support this organization. So we just want to make sure that we're making the best use of everybody's time. So those are the top three that we're going to kick off in January. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update as to the fact that the board is doing some self, reflection and looking at different ways that maybe we can operate better and different. And if you look at the mix of board members that are here, we've got some people that are retired that maybe do, or maybe they don't really have a lot of extra time, but we also have people that are still actively working, and we want to make sure that there's a good balance between the type of things that we asked for and what they can commit to. So with that, I'll turn it over to Pete for the next part of the meeting. He's going to go into a 2020 in review, the 2023 annual plan, and then the 2023 budget. And after he's complete with providing you oversight about all of those, the board will need to take a vote on the annual plan and the budget. So with that, Pete, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Judy. I think, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Good. Well, As they say, time sure flies when you're having fun, and I cannot believe it's already been a year since our last annual meeting in 2021. So here we are again, and what a year it's been. Unpredictable and a little bumpy at times, but regardless, I am absolutely delighted to review this past year with all of you, as the Preserve has accomplished some big things, even in a year full of economic uncertainty. I like to give each year a tagline, and back in 2021, my tagline for 2022 was building on our successes, as we built on the lessons learned from the pandemic situation. This year, my tagline for 2023 is preparing to launch, as the Preserve has constructed strong foundational support in many areas, preparing us to accomplish even bigger things in 2023 and beyond. First and foremost, we completed our new strategic plan with the help of our consultant, Relevant Strategies and Solutions. This plan is arguably the most vetted, benchmarked, detailed, and ambitious strategic plan that the Preserve has ever built. As a result, we have new mission and vision statements and a plan that guides the Preserve through the next 5 years. We invested in inclusion, diversity, equity, and access initiatives that aim to engage diverse audiences with the Preserve, including the launch of our Access Card partnership with ArtReach, a Philadelphia nonprofit that connects people with disabilities with arts and culture organizations for just a $2 admission. We hosted our inaugural Preserve at Play family and children event, engaging more robustly with our growing family audience. We launched the new combination ticket with Bowman's Hill Tower, giving our audiences the opportunity to visit both sites for a discounted price. And I'm very, very proud of our Forest Therapy Family Sensory Access Pilot Program, which is a grant-funded program offering guided forest meditation free of charge to families that have special sensory needs, formerly known as the autism spectrum. We continue to invest in our beautiful site and our aging infrastructure in several ways. We launched our Cabin Classroom Project, another grant-funded initiative that assesses our 1935 American chestnut log cabin and designs an adjacent outdoor classroom facility. We diligently addressed and continue to address the hazards caused by our declining ash tree population, making our trails safe and enjoyable for all of our visitors. The importance of addressing our hazard trees cannot be overstated. Our ash tree population has been decimated by the emerald ash borer infestation, as well as many of our oak trees infected by bacterial leaf scorch. But we have already spent over $40,000 of unbudgeted expenses to address the most hazardous trees, and we don't anticipate a slowdown for next year. In addition, we began to address general deferred maintenance needs, such as the collapsed sewer pipe at the visitor center that was repaired in 2022. That was a lot of fun, and are looking ahead to even more infrastructure repair needs in 2023. And finally, we are all looking forward to the new River Road sign that also promotes our native plant nursery to be installed later this year. And Jenny Rose Carey in her presentation reminded me that I can't go without tooting the horn of the native plant nursery this year. We broke records again in 2022. You might have recall me speaking in 2021, we sold a record 33,000 plants. Well, we got past that mark again in 2022. And for the first time ever, we exceeded $300,000 of revenue earned solely from the native plant nursery. So a really great year for that. All of this has been accomplished within a sudden and dramatic shift in the economic landscape across 2022, including labor market pressures that have significantly increased our payroll costs, stock market performance, and the decline in the value of the Preserve's financial assets. Significantly increased costs of goods, making our nursery operations and production significantly more expensive, from the cost of fuel to the cost of soil mixes, pots, and plant material. And of course, the 2022 buzzword, high inflation. So even with all of these economic challenges, the Preserve is ready to leave 2022 and leap ahead into 2023. So to provide a look into the year ahead, I'd like to review the Preserve's 2023 annual plan by each department. First, in collections and curation, in collaboration with interpretation, we'll be developing statements on climate change and cultivar use. We'll also be determining the authority that the preserve will use to determine a native plant's status. We'll be reaching out to institutions to conduct research on site, and will continue to support the removal of our hazard trees. In development and fundraising, we will be managing the transition to digital membership. We'll be reevaluating the price points of our membership categories, but we'll also be rolling out new benefits for each categories in January. We will plan and host an inaugural members-only Music in the Meadow event. We'll be enhancing and developing our major gift portfolio and introducing business partnership, planned giving, and naming opportunity programs. Finally, we hope to launch a capital campaign to support the construction of our cabin classroom project. In education, we'll be developing our Nature At series, as well as Fourth Friday's preschool programming. We'll again be hosting the 2023 Virtual Land Ethics Symposium, so please mark your calendars for Thursday, February the 16th next year. We'll be expanding two well-known programs, the Knowing Native Plants series, as well as the new Morning in the Meadow program. And we'll be welcoming a new class of interpretive naturalists next year with enhanced program handbooks and training. For facilities and grounds, we'll be continuing to address the damage incurred from Hurricane Ida last September. We'll be replacing the beloved Penswoods gazebo with a new, larger structure. Of course, we'll be supporting hazardous tree removals again, and fingers crossed, we'll be acquiring, hopefully, a new donor-funded dump truck. In marketing and communications, we'll be sourcing a vendor next year to support a transition to a new website as early as 2024. We'll be sending out a printed newsletter, as we will again this year, so stay tuned for that in your mailboxes coming up in the next month and a half. We'll be exploring the use of new social media platforms such as TikTok, and we'll be creating a plan for outreach and marketing to new audiences. In the native plant nursery, we'll be filming a virtual tour of the nursery for our virtual audience. We'll be finding better ways to obscure our nursery operations from the sightlines of our visitors. We'll be further refining the plant list to eliminate plants that are native beyond the 100-mile radius to the preserve, and reducing the number of high-maintenance plants and high-cost plants that we offer. We'll continue to cultivate relationships with our vendors to support contract growing relationships. And we'll be investing more in our propagation volunteers, seeking more feedback from them and restructuring our propagation sessions to increase production and efficiencies. On the visitor interpretive experience side, we'll be updating the priorities of our 2019 interpretive plan. We'll be providing interpretive training for our staff and our volunteers. We'll be providing input and guidance on the cabin classroom project, holding the second Preserve at Play event for families and children next June 10th, actually, if you want to mark your calendars. And finally, we'll be developing a master plan for the Penswoods Loop, including new interpretive panels for the Moss Garden and the Visitor Center Garden, as well as an update to our tree trail. For volunteers, we'll be using Preserve community tabling events to distribute information on volunteer opportunities here at the Preserve. We'll be attempting to establish dedicated volunteer teams to support the maintenance of our key trails, as well as our admissions gatehouse. We'll complete training for cashiers and plant customer service volunteers, as well as propagation training for our nursery volunteers. We'll offer a couple sessions of interpretive training for our retail volunteers, as well as establishing a number of social and recognition events for the volunteers. We'll be also seeking their feedback through annual satisfaction surveys and regular check-in throughout the year, and updating our corporate volunteer program. So with that, now on to our 2023 budget. Of course, the goal, as in most budgets, is to maximize our earned revenue streams while minimizing expenditures, particularly accommodating those post-pandemic impacts, including labor market pressures, stock market performance, the significantly increased cost of goods, and inflation. It's also important to understand the context of the budget, or the set of financial and operational factors that heavily influence the budget. First, the Preserve receives no annual operational support from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In addition, the payroll protection program that provided well over $300,000 to the preserve in 2020 and 2021 is no longer available to us. And staffing will largely remain the same as it was here in 2022 with the following exceptions. We anticipate the return of our 2 BHWP interns, as well as the facilities and grounds assistant position, which is a seasonal position. In addition, we will be transitioning our events and volunteer coordinator position, which is currently a full-time position, into 2 part-time positions. Now, given the goals and the context of this budget, I'd now like to review the key tenets or themes of this next year's budget. First, our short-term budget solutions include price increases, which not only help address the current economic environment challenges, but they also provide an opportunity for the preserve to move more in line with market standards and are the result of significant benchmarking studies. Now, barring further degradation of the economic environment, I do not foresee making significant price increases in 2024, as I now feel comfortable with our market competitiveness following these increases. In 2023, price increases will be seen for admissions, education programs, nursery plant sales, and finally, facilities rental rates were already increased this year. So we don't anticipate they will be rising to a high degree in 2023. Going forward, the midterm and long-term solution is to invest more heavily in fundraising and development. It requires time to develop, invest in, and realize the benefits of a major donor portfolio and corporate partner program. And historically, the preserve has lagged in both of these areas. With our Director of Donor and Partner Relations, Sarah Norris, now here for a year, we have already laid excellent framework to build on these initiatives across 2023. As further fundraising support, the declining net revenue of the former Spring Wildflower Gala has been replaced with the growing net revenue of the new signature fundraiser, Rooted in Our Future. And finally, the Board of Trustees is now evolving into a more strategic body rather than an operational one, providing more support to fundraising efforts as a best practice. Now, on to the next tenet. We must invest in our aging infrastructure and health and safety grounds related work, including building repairs and improvements. This budget for 2023 includes a 21% increase in building expenses from the 2022 budget to accommodate general deferred maintenance needs, such as the replacement of the visitor center heating oil tanks, the decaying visitor center windows, and the rehabilitation of our development office to expand much needed office space and protect our technology systems and network server. We must also invest heavily in our property and our grounds, including hazard tree removals, resulting mostly from the dying ash tree population killed by the emerald ash borer infestation. And as a point of reference, in 2022 alone, we will have spent well over $40,000 of unanticipated hazard tree removals for visitor safety needs, and that pace will not go down next year. The final tenet of next year's budget is our need to invest more in our members and our volunteers. So the membership program will be expanded in 2023. In addition, we have work to do to recruit, retain, and recognize our volunteers as we get back to our pre-COVID levels of volunteer support. For example, our roster of over 200 active volunteers went down to approximately 25 active volunteers immediately following COVID. For membership, there was a 129% increase from the 2022 membership budget to accommodate the new Music in the Meadow members-only event free of charge in the summer of 2023, as well as our transfer to a digital membership platform rather than a paper-based one. So stay tuned on future updates on that from our donor and partner relations team. And finally, our members will also enjoy enhanced general membership benefits to be rolled out in January of 2023. So lots of good things coming down the pike for our amazing members. Our volunteer expenses represent a 20% increase from the 2022 budget volunteer expenses to accommodate 4 appreciation events, including annual appreciation event, an ice cream summer social, a mission-related movie night, and a special recognition breakfast for our naturalists. Our awesome volunteers will also enjoy more robust staff support, as our current full-time events and volunteer coordinator position is to be split into 2 part-time positions, the volunteer coordinator and the events coordinator. The new part-time volunteer coordinator is a permanent position at 24 hours a week that will provide more focused support for and development of the Preserve's volunteer corps. So, with all of that, I am delighted to present a balanced 2023 budget of $1,236,000. So after that, I will now turn things back over to our board chair, Judy Eby, who will take us through the trustee votes for the 2023 annual plan, as well as the 2023 budget. So Judy, it is back to you. Judy, you are on mute.
Some would say I'm better that way. So with that,
we wouldn't say that, Judy.
not out loud, only on mute. Okay, so with that, we're going to start with the annual plan, and I'll go down the list. I'll read the roll call. I think there are some board members that may not have been able to join us. So if you are on mute, I'd like to ask you to not do what I just did, but take yourself off of mute, and we'll go down through the roll call for the annual meeting.
Do we need a motion? Do we need a motion to approve that?
Yes, sorry. So do I have a motion to approve the annual plan?
Okay.
So moved.
Juanita and Heidi.
Lisa.
Okay, I'm just doing this for the minutes.
Okay, so with that, let's go down the list. Deborah,
I approve.
Christy,
I approve.
Jenny,
I approve.
Julie, I approve. Judy, I approve. Avetta,
I approve.
Stephen,
I approve.
Allison,
I approve.
Lisa,
I approve.
Chris,
I approve.
Juanita,
I approve.
Julia,
I approve.
Pat,
I approve.
Heidi,
I approve.
and Seth.
I approve.
Okay, perfect. Now we need to, I need a motion to approve the 2023 budget.
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, so Stephen's the second and Avetta's the first. So with that, again, I'll go down through the roll call. And you can let me know how you want to vote. So we'll start out with Deborah,
I approve.
Christy,
I approve.
Jenny,
I approve.
Julie, Judy, I approve. Avetta,
I approve.
Stephen,
Approve.
Allison,
I approve.
Lisa,
I approve.
Chris Holzner,
I approve.
Juanita,
I approve.
Julia,
I approve.
Pat,
I approve.
Heidi,
I approve.
and Seth.
I approve.
All right, with that, appears we have an approved annual plan and an approved budget for 2023. Great work, everyone.
It looks like Julie weighed in with her 2 votes in the chat too.
Oh, she did? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, with that, I'll turn this back over to Pete. See if we have any questions.
Santino, are there any questions for us or for Jenny Rose Carey in the Q&A or in the chat that we should be aware of?
Not that I see at the moment.
We stunned the audience into silence.
Though
Amazing.
some of our
work,
audience
everybody.
members did also approve all the motions. So
Well, that's good to know.
Excellent. Any other orders of business on your end, Judy, or other board members here today?
Nothing from me.
Nothing on your end? Well, with that, then we will move towards ending this 2022 annual meeting. Thank you all so much for joining and for your part in making this year, 2022, another amazing year for the Preserve. We put in a lot of hard work, not only the staff, but this wonderful, amazing community of stakeholders across the board. We all rolled up our sleeves, many of us quite literally, to bring the Preserve to the next level. And with our new strategic plan ahead, as I said, we are ready to leap into next year and beyond. So thank you again for everyone joining here today and all that wonderful support you've been continuing to give to the Preserve. So Judy, I'll turn it back to you to adjourn the meeting.
Yes, so the only thing I can say is ditto to what Pete just said. It has been an amazing year. And to echo Juanita, it's, you know, we've got a lot on our plate for next year, but I think it's been outlined really well. And it's got the buy-in from everybody. So I'm looking forward to it. So with that, it's Chris, I have 10:26.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the annual meeting.
Yes, do I have a, looks like Jenny Rose and Pat. All right, with that, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I appreciate your time and all of your efforts. And just thank you.
Bye, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.